Copperhead Customs. Today, we're going to work on this, our 1928 Oakland. If you want to see what we do, you better stick around. So yes, this is a 1928 Oakland, a very rare piece of machinery. So if you're new, the Oaklands were discontinued in 1930 and the Pontiacs took over the brand. Kind of. Yes, well in saying that, they were making Pontiacs prior. Pontiacs were like the budget-friendly version of the Oakland, and in 1930 they decided, GM that is, decided to discontinue the Oakland brand and just run the Pontiac. And this we have built from basically nothing. Yes, that's right. So this was originally someone else's project that they'd been tinkering with off and on for about 15 years. It was basically just the cab and doors, the fenders, the motor and the chassis. But prior to them getting it, it was just a pile of rust sitting out in a paddock in a farm in the middle of Australia. Now we have done a hell of a lot of work on this. We have made a custom bed tub tray. We've put in a Jag.
That's right, a Jag.
IRS rear end. And we've also put in a Jag.
That's right, a Jag.
IRS front end. We've fully boxed in the chassis. We've made the back end of the Roadster, crocodile leather interior, a bonnet and nose cone, but we don't even know where they came from. Same with the bumper, we don't know where that came from. We've done all this beautiful looking woodwork with a burnt in logo. And in the last episode, we did this custom wood center section in the front, did this beautiful brass grille, made some grille ornaments, and made this custom bonnet. So with all that said, in other words, we have done a lot of work to this car. But there is still heaps more to do. Yeah, that's right, there is still a heap more to do. And today, we're going to try to cross some more things off the list. So, stick around and we'll see what we do. But hey, we have other projects on as well. Our 38 Chev over there, that thing is jaw-droppingly good. And the best thing about us here is we do it all for next to nothing. That's right, we are a budget-friendly building channel. Say that 4 times quick and see how you go. So most of these cars are built for a $5,000 Australian budget. This one is probably going to be an 8,000 Australian budget. Convert that into your money and it is not a lot. Especially when a wrecked VW Beetle costs $5,000. That's right, over in Australia the prices of cars, especially older cars, with anything with a chrome bumper has gone absolutely insane. There is a very limited supply now because a lot got crushed by the scrap people back in the day. So there's limited supply, the stuff that is around is rusted and not much good, and the money that people want for them is ridiculous. So cars that 10, 15 years ago I left on the side of the road because they were worth $400 or $500, and if it broke down, it wasn't even worth grabbing and fixing. You just left it. Now are fetching like $10,000 for that same rusty piece of junk. So I hope that puts into perspective how much we do achieve on this channel building them for the prices that we do. Can we get on with the video now and stop talk and dribble? Okay, let's get on with the work, hey? So like I said on the last episode, we put this bonnet and nose cone on the car and made them fit. Now I mounted this with 4 10mm bolts on top of these little, well they're decorative pieces, but they're also strengthening pieces for our bolts. So our first port of call is we'll quickly remove the bonnet, hood, whatever you call it in your country, because there's some stuff I would like to do just under there, and this will make easier access. So as you can see, that was pretty easy to remove. Now if you're wondering how that was done, was up on the top of the cab here, I welded in some 10mm nuts into the cab. And on the nose cone here, I used these little clips, hopefully you can see them, just a little slide-on clip plate nut type thing. Now what we are planning on doing is, if you're looking at this, you're probably looking at this bug catcher and saying, that does not look correct on this car. And I totally agree. Yes, I totally agree. The bug catcher was never actually part of this car. It was originally for the 283 Chev we had in our 38 Chev beside you, which got put into our Pontiac. That's a big story, but this bug catcher was just sitting on here to cover it up. But I have gone and purchased something that I think will match this car pretty well. So if you know much about these, they are a bit of a pain to remove from the carby. So what we'll do is we'll take the carby over to the bench and we will unbolt the bug catcher from the carby and we will go from there. Okay, so we got that bug catcher removed. This is just an old Holly we've got. It's supposed to be used for mock-up. It's either going to need to be fully rebuilt or replaced, but it's just basically a mock-up carby. We will now go and let's unwrap what I bought. Okay, now this here we will unwrap, but this here we bought, this was off of eBay and it was the cheapest one on eBay, so we'll see the quality, but it actually came from the hot rod shop down on the Gold Coast. Now I bought a fair bit of stuff from them. They're pretty good. Australian Hot Rod, I think they are called, non-sponsored or anything. But what I will say for them is I ordered this one morning about 10 o'clock and it was here the next day at 10 o'clock. Now that is unheard of over here in Australia for stuff to arrive that quickly. So I will give a big shout out to them. They must have sent this off pretty much instantaneously of me placing the order on eBay. So now, like I said, this was the cheapest by a long way of these. It was less than $100 cheaper than any other in this style. Now I really think this is going to suit this car. Some people will probably love this style and some will hate it. Some of you already know what I'm going to pull out because this is a big air cleaner. So what else we got in here? We've got, so this is the shop here, Australian Rod and Custom, and we've got $50 off. That's very good. And our brochure. So they do everything hot rod, sell everything hot rod, crate motors, you name it, diffs. Basically you can build a kit car through them if you were so inclined. So let's get into this and see what we have got. Some of you already know what we're pulling out here, I would say, but this is what we've got. We've got the big Cadillac style back wing, I think they call it, air cleaner, and I think this will suit this car to an absolute T. We've got it in black, of course. Looks like it's flat black, which will be sufficient for us. Now we could stuff around and paint and sand back, do some patina, but I think I am personally just going to leave this just like that, and I think that's going to look a treat. So let's go, stick it on the car and see what we think. Oakley dokley, so we've just sanded up the motor a little bit and given it some patina and age because I think it suited it better with the whole car having patina on it now. I thought the glossy black motor just didn't quite sit, whereas now it looks like it was all painted around the same time and it's wearing off. So we've brought the Ford Blue out, which I think is not bad, hey? So we haven't gone crazy, you know, on the manifold, just done a little bit more on the rocker covers because they'll cop a bit more wear and tear. But what it's leading me to think now is I'm thinking of putting a little bit of paint on the air cleaner and sanding it off. So what I'm thinking of doing is putting a little bit of blue, probably a little bit of a brown, maybe even a touch of red here and there, and then putting a layer of black over the top quickly, just with pressure packs, nothing thick or heavy or anything, just some random splurts, then just giving them a bit of a scotchy back, and so we bring a little bit of this. So that's what I'm leaning towards doing. Hopefully we don't stuff it. Okay, we're back. So, wow, you've just seen we did that. And if you're looking at that through the camera, you will see that that looks really, really bad. It looks all pitted and dots everywhere. That, my friends, is done deliberately. Now, what we did to achieve that is we used that brown paint we put on first was hammer tone paint. So we've sprayed that down. Now, while that's still wet, we've thrown the other coats on top. Now, what that's done is that makes the others react to that hammer tone, giving us all these little pits. Now, this is what you do not want to do when you're trying to do proper paint. But when you're trying to make patina, you do want this because this will give us some texture. So we've now got our hammer tone. We put a couple of bits of red on. We did the two different blues to lighten the blue a little bit and some texture. And then we threw down the black over the top. Now we'll let this set up and dry. Then we'll come through and we'll sand this down a little bit. And we'll bring a lot of this pitting and we'll go through and burn through some colors. And fingers crossed, like this, it should work a treat. And if it doesn't, we'll sand it all off and start again. So there's our air cleaner. I think it turned out okay. We can probably sand it a bit more and bring a bit more of the blue up later on, but I would rather let it set off a bit more. And I think the motor now, I think this suits the car a lot better, and with the motor slightly patinaed as per se, I think that suits the rest of the car a lot better. So now our next step, that is that done, is I've just gone and put the spare wheel. So yes, I've just gone and bolted the spare wheel holder on properly. Now we're still looking for a wheel for this. Now I just grabbed a 14-inch 155 wheel and it only comes to about here. So we're basically looking for like a 20-inch rim or something with a monster tyre that is only skinny. So we're probably looking for a space saver in an 18 or a 20 inch is sort of what I'm hoping may fit. Now this can come down a little bit. So our next thing that I want to look at is this, is our windscreen. Now I bought some Perspex sheet I found a heap cheap, and I'm just going to put a Perspex sheet in here for now. Whether I change it to glass later or not, I'm not quite sure. But basically this isn't a windshield as per se, it's more of a wind deflector because my head is slightly above this. So what I'm thinking of doing is putting a piece of Perspex in and not framing the top in at all, leaving it open and just having it mounted there and there. So we're going to see how that works. So basically, if we have to change it to glass later, then we can, and we can use the Perspex as our template. But the Perspex was cheap and it's 5 or 6 mil thick. So we'll see what it's like and if it works. So it's basically the same as this here, but not tinted. So we'll go and cut them up. We've got to cut a sheet in half, and then we'll start working out how to cut it in, silicone it in, put a chrome trim in the center, and see what it looks like. Alrighty, there we go. Perspex windscreen installed. So we just cut that to shape. So we basically just cut the sheet in, sat it in, and I just ran a texture line along the bottom, got the bottom cut. Pretty easy, simple, self-explanatory stuff that is. Now we'll see how we go with that, what it's like, and we can also, that's right, we can also run our top frame on if we decide we like it. That will just get siliconed in like that. So what's your, drop a comment on what you think, whether we run the top frame or without. I think it looks pretty slick without it, but we can always install this if we have to. If there's too much vibration movement in that, we can always put the top brace in. So anyway, whether that's going to be the finished product or not, we're not quite sure. So with that said, let's work out what we're going to do next. This is our latest creation. So we have a 20 litre, what's that, a 5 gallon jerry can here. What we've done is, we'll rewind a little bit, is we've gone to the fuel tank, we removed the fuel tank and we welded a little spout on it that needs a fuel cap, of course, but it's a proper fuel cap spout. It came off of the original tank on the 38 Chevy. So we cut that because it was the wrong size and reduced it a bit. Welded that onto the tank, basically straight up. So we could just leave that there with the fuel cap. It would look okay, I suspect. We then grabbed our wood and I was humming and hurrying because I was going to hinge these, but I'm thinking now I might not. We might just put a couple of those spade type brackets on, like there and over there, just decorative. May just make it so the whole panel will lift out. But anyway, we hold sawed a circle hole into that plank so it's nice and snug fit. Then, which was always my plan, was we've got our little jerry can here and we've cut it down and made it sit like that. Now the plan is that I'll hinge that here, I think, and so this will hinge. You'll hinge this open like this, bang, you undo your lid, put your fuel in, flick your little jerry can back over, and we'll probably have some sort of, I haven't quite worked out what to use here, but I'll have something here that will just hold it up, some sort of a latching system. It might even just be a little piece of Oki strap type arrangement or something. Yeah, when we go to the service station to put petrol in, we'll just pull that over like this, tack our cap off, put our fuel in, and then flick that back on like that. And I think that's pretty trick, eh? I don't know, I can't say I've ever seen it. It would have been done, someone would have probably done it, but I think that looks pretty cool. All right, so here is our next task we're going to do. And what we're going to do is we need to make basically something along these lines on our steering wheel. So if we come over to the car and have a quick look, this is what our column is with our steering wheel that goes on there. So we want to make a little, I don't actually know what you would call it, but basically, for argument's sake, like this big one here, and then the steering wheel would be kind of, like this, and that goes into the dash. Okay, so that's not the right size, but what we've got is this. Right, so this here fits onto the back of the steering wheel pretty much perfectly. Okay, it does go on there, there you go. So that goes on there, but when you do that, that turns with the steering wheel. Now it does actually turn on there, but it is very, very snug. But that still doesn't cover the rest of our shaft, column, shaft, whatever. So what we've gone and done is we've gone and bought some plumbing pipe from the plumbing shop. We can get this to work somehow. So I bought this one here, which actually fits the bigger size. Okay, that actually fits there. So if we were to still run this, we could run it with this big size going in towards the dash. But I've also bought this one, which is ever so slightly bigger than this by about 1 mil. So this should fit over this and have perfectly and it's a little bit freer so the steering wheel can turn and this stay still. So I think this is what I want to try to use. Now, what we also, so that will be on there like that. What I've also gone and bought is I've bought this indicator setup off of the eBay of it, and this is obviously an indicator with the warning lights, and I think this is a hazard light, and that actually clamps onto the shaft. So I actually bought this for the Chevy, but I've gone and ordered another one for the Chev. So we're going to put that on the shaft, and we're going to cut a hole in this. So this is what my plan is it's going to be a bit of a trick to do it, but we're going to have to cut a hole in this that this fits in, and that will be in there like sticking out half like that basically. So yes, if we have a quick look at the dash here, it will come in like that. So what I'm saying is that we will notch this along here like that, so that that face is there, and then a bit of this goes under to make it look pretty trick. So that is the plan of what I've come up with to try to get this to work, and when that's all done and we're happy with it, we'll paint this black. So our first job is we'll take a measurement from the back of the steering wheel to this part of the dash, and then we will also allow a bit to go in under, and we'll cut our piece to a more manageable size. So we've got our mark. Now this is a pipe wrap. You probably don't know, but I used to be a pipe fitter welder. That was my trade. So we just get a pipe wrap. Now you don't have to have a special made pipe wrap. You can use anything. You can get a bit of sandpaper, anything that's straight and long and flexible, and you just wrap it around your pipe. Okay, and then set it all back onto itself, and you basically have a nice straight line, as you can see. So then you set it up onto your line, get your texture, mark it, easy peasy. So now that will be a perfectly straight square line. Okay, so we'll cut it there. That can be our steering wheel edge, and we will start, because this edge has been done in the shop, I can actually see it's a little bit not square, so this will be our edge that we cut and chamfer in. Okay, so we've got that notched in around here, not too bad. Now I think what the next plan will be, we'll pull it all apart. Now we're probably going to need to maybe put a little bracket in there to stop this turning, but this does, as you can see, it wants to turn a bit with it. And just let me jump in. We actually hold this and it works pretty good. We may just take a little slither off of it just to get it back a tiny bit more, I'd say. I would want a little bit more room off of that. I think we might just take a slither off to send it back that way, just like ever so much, 1 or 2 mil. Now what we will need to do now is we'll take the steering wheel off, then we'll put the steering wheel back on, and we will get our indicator stalk. We'll get a measurement, we'll mount our indicator stalk on, and we'll get a measurement back from the steering wheel to the stalk to work out roughly where that is, so we can cut our hole in the side. We'll have to put a hole somewhere, probably we'll put it underneath so no one can see it, so we can do the clamp up, because we're going to have to put the stalk and this on together. And then I think at the end we might just grab a little piece of metal or something, and we will just have a little screw down the bottom here, like a little L-shaped bracket either side, which would fix that back there. And then this, well, it can't turn with the indicator stalk, but it will just stop any twisting or anything like that. So that's my plan. I don't know what it looks like from there, but it seems to look okay. I'm pretty happy with that. I think that looks better than seeing the column when it's black. It'll look pretty nice, I think. So with that said, let's pull it all apart and take some more measurements. Hopefully we get this steering wheel off without banging it again. No, it wants to have a hard time again, doesn't it? Of course. Oakley dokley. Well, we actually made a bit of a stuff up there. So I've modified it now, and we've remounted the indicator in a different spot, which luckily we bought some extra pipe, isn't it? So this is the original one that we've had to cut and change. So I've put the blue tape on to mark the edges of where we want it. Now I'll pull this off and I'll show you what we're talking about. Now, we were mounting the indicator stalk on this, and silly me, well, that's the shaft that turns, isn't it? So it was never going to work. So we've now mounted the indicator on the actual outer shaft at the back there. We've sat it in here nicely and we're doing it different. So that's now mounted, and we now change our cutout to basically this. So we'll recut our new one and we'll try again. Okay, so this is what we just did. I grabbed a piece of paper and I stuck it on our piece of pipe, wrapped it around and taped it up. Okay, so we had our cylinder. I then slid this piece of paper over the top of this and traced out on the paper our edges and our bits of tape lines to get our cut. So as you can see, we've traced it around there. This is where our original cut was. This is where we want our new cut. Up here's our tape. Okay, so the parts with the X's are what we need to remove. I've now taped our paper template back onto our new piece, as you can see at the top. So now we're just going to cut straight through the paper and we should theoretically have the piece we want. Otherwise we're going to buying a new piece of pipe. So let's see how we go. So, theoretically, that should be close. I actually cut it a little bit, left a little bit of green on it. Okay, we are back, and as you can see, we have got our steering column done. It's not too bad at all. I think that looks pretty good. I'm trying to get you in there. Yeah, it looks pretty good, doesn't it? Back here. Yeah, it looks nice and neat. You wouldn't realise that is a piece of plumbing pipe. So that's actually, we've put some grease in between this and this in there, so it turns nicely. It's actually mounted over on the other side around there. We've got a little bolt, and there's our indicator, boom, in nicely, and we've put our wood, our steering wheel is all bolted on, our horn is bolted on. So that there's basically a finished product type looking thing. I think it'll look pretty trick. And then when we've got our shifter, we're going to have a B&M shifter down there is what the plan is, with this mounted on, something like that. That looks pretty trick, doesn't it? Now what we did here, you would have just seen, wondering what I was doing. So I got some little wooden pieces of hardwood, ground them up to slide inside this. So we've actually, this is a handle, I don't even know what it was off, sort of like a drawer or something handle. And so we've screwed that into the piece of wood that we made tight to slide in there. So just slide them in. Reason being is, I want these to remove because, and want this open because I'm probably, down the track, we're going to make a hard lid, I would say, a roof. We're going to make a metal roof for this, I think. Something like that. It will probably come out a bit. But I think I'm going to tap it into there, as in have some little mounts that go in there and they just get pinned or something. Or it just sits in there for the front mount. That's what I am leaning to. So I want to leave these open at this time until I decide what we're going to do. Even if it's a convertible top that we make that folds out, a leather type top, we want to leave them open to probably stick a bar in for the roof. So at this stage I want them left open, and I think these little toppers finish it off quite nicely when it is just sitting there with no roof. So they sort of go with the theme. It's a bit of a metalwork, gothic-y type theme. So yeah, we've just made some little hardwood dowels, basically, you'd call them, and they just slide in. See, it's nice and tight, so they're not, I don't want to pull them in and out because I don't want them to free up. So they're in there, they're not going to come out. And then down the track, when we do make our roof, it can go in, and then when we're running no roof, these push in, and when we're running a roof, we'll put them in somewhere. So anyways, we've got a little bit done so far. We'll do some more, but yes. So we've got our windscreen done. We've got our new air cleaner, patinaed it. We've patinaed our motor. We've done our windscreen, like I said. We've done the steering column now, and we've done these little dowels, and we've got our indicators. So I think, and we've also done our fuel tank, what do you call it? Cover, filler-upper cover. Oh, I don't know if I can lift this one-handed. It's got a bit of curry on it. Woohoo! Way there, I'll lift it. Yeah, that hard lid is heavy. It's not for the faint-hearted, that one. So we've got the hard lid, beautiful. Now we've done this. So this is our next job, is we want to put a hinge on this to hinge this so it can flap down. And I think we want to do our little decorative pieces. So we want to make 4 decorative pieces, find a hinge, and maybe we'll look at some sort of a latch for that. We are back, and we had some success there. So we've made our 4 spades, as you can see there, all bolted down onto our wooden floor. So that's that pretty much mounted. What we may do later on is we may just throw 1 or 2 little screws down into the little lip that's down there. Maybe even just 1 in the center, top and bottom. And that way there's no way it can come out or bounce out. But remembering this is hardwood, so it's nice and heavy, and these are in there fairly tight as well. So yeah, I can't see them coming out anyway, but we'll probably throw 2 screws in each just for that. But yes, there's our spade bits made, bolted down, and then look at what we've done over on the side there. So there is our fuel filler hider, I suppose what you'd say. So what we've done over there in the end is we've got a rubber door rubber that goes on the actual car, the one that has the little clampy bit. We've got one of them off of one of our parts cars. We've ran that around the bottom of the jerry can, so it's rubber sealed, or just so it's not going to scratch anything or scratch you or cut you when you go to use it. We've also got ourselves a little hinge. We've bolted a hinge to it and bolted it to the floor. And then if you have a look up at the top here now, we have a little like ocky strap type thing that you would have on the back of your ute to hold your tarp or something similar along those lines. So we've got this little ocky strap, bang, we undo that, that's all bolted in, and fold it down. There's our filler, rubber sealed, all beautiful. Pull it back over, grab your little rubber, bang, it ain't going anywhere, it looks a treat. And now we have a hidden fuel filler. So, all in all, we got quite a bit done once again. First off, we put the Cadillac back wing air cleaner on, and I think that suits this build perfectly. Then we patinaed the motor, and then we patinaed the air cleaner. We then jumped up here and did our windscreen out of Perspex without a frame. So hopefully that works a treat, but it looks awesome. And it's a wind deflector, not windscreen. We did the steering column cover, the indicator switch. Some people say blinkers. And mounted the steering wheel properly. And we mounted the spare tyre holder. We then went from the front to the back. That's right, we then jumped into the back and did our 4 spade pieces for our woodwork, and fingers crossed that might be the last ones we have to do. Please let it be the last ones. I'm so sick of grinding those spades. We also extended the spout of our fuel tank and then made this awesome looking fuel tank cover that's hinged and mounted on the elastic. And seriously, how good is this tray, tub, bed, hard lid and sides look? Man, they are a jaw dropper. So that's a heap more progress once again, and I don't think you could disagree that this 1928 Oakland is turning out absolutely beautiful. So who knows, you might have learned something. It may be what not to do, it may be what to do, it may have just given you an idea, but we hope you had fun watching it anyway. And with that being said, I will say thanks for watching, and we will see you next week, where we're probably gonna be back on the Chevy. Back on the Chevy. Yeah, we're gonna be back on the Chevy.